This is Papa Smurf. You're listening to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, with ODB and the Mayor.
Yo, it's ODB, Our Lifestyle podcast, and we want to remind you that Bayou Showdown is going down later this year in Slidell, Louisiana at the Harbor Center. That's 100 Harbor Center Boulevard, again in Slidell, Louisiana. Bayou Showdown is November 20th and 21st. It's the weekend before Thanksgiving, so get on out and support the scene, including Custom Car Show Productions in conjunction with Mr. Sean Randall. Bayou Showdown, November 20th and 21st, Slidell, Louisiana. Check that hashtag, Bayou Showdown, or Facebook, Bayou Showdown, for more information. Yo, it's Our Lifestyle podcast. I cannot believe I'm going to say this, episode 250, the milestone episode. Thanks to everyone that continues to come back and rock with us. We appreciate it. We've been pedal stomped for 6 years in the last 2.5, actually more than 2.5, every single Friday with new content. And guess what? It's totally free. You heard at the top, big ups to Bayou Showdown and the Custom Car Show Production family. They've been with us a long time, since the early days, if not day one. We can't thank them enough. Bayou Showdown is the weekend before Thanksgiving this year in Slidell, Louisiana, as you heard. And then, of course, after that, their next event will be Orange Beach Invasion next March in Orange Beach, Alabama. So this episode, I'm going to actually intro it. I don't think, let me check, did Mike dial in the conference? Of course he didn't. He's out gallivanting around, but I got to, give him a little bit of kudos. Obviously right now, down here, it's back to school for a lot of people. He's been doing the stuff with his daughter, which is one of the reasons why he couldn't make the Spark Show last weekend, which, by the way, I think was their biggest year. So big ups to the homies at the Spark Show. Now, before I give you guys the intro to this episode, I did want to just say I recorded a separate segment to touch upon our dear friend, just a great person, an ambassador to the scene, Ernie Macias. We obviously weren't going to not cover this tragic event, and much love and respect to his family and friends, clubmates, colleagues, co-workers. I do have a segment that I'll air here just, coming up. And I had to kind of record it separate just because I had to be able to keep my composure for it. But rest assured, we are working on a tribute episode. And we've touched base with some of the people that I believe should be on that episode. And you'll hear more during that segment. So rest in peace to Ernie. And more coming in a few minutes. And on a future episode, possibly 251, 252. It really depends. I mean, this is just so much to unpack in terms of this loss. It's just you can't just fathom the magnitude of the loss that we have in our scene, and really the automotive industry. Obviously, a husband, father, friend to many. Rest in peace, Ernie. Again, I had to record this segment separate, just because it's not going to be easy. So I'm going to try to move on from the topic, and I'll play that audio here in a few minutes. On a lighter note, right, a little bit different energy on this episode, but we know that Ernie would want the scene to continue to thrive, and we're going to keep the pedal stomped, and we'll do it in Ernie's memory for this episode. Just such a good dude. Rest in peace to the legend. Now, on this episode 250, we have the legendary Doug Starbuck. Many of you are going to know his name, and for those that don't, maybe you're a new school guy, younger cat, don't worry, we'll bring you up to speed. Mr. Starbuck, Doug, the legend, okay? And he probably doesn't want me to say that. I mean, this is a super humble guy. But I tell you what, man, this guy has done so much in his career. We've had him on the list a while. The list is still pretty long. We've knocked out a lot because we've been 2.5 years straight. So don't get me wrong. We've had so many names, but there's a lot more on this list. And so I'm so thankful to be able to play this audio from Doug a little bit later. Now, those that are the normal listeners to the podcast, you know how it works. We're going to go through the main updates. I will. The co-host, Mike, he's off for this week. I might try to get some audio with Ruben because Ruben, I think, has been with us on 50, 100, 150, 200, and 250. He knows we love streaks here. Not those kind of streakings, but we love these streaks that we get on, and we're going to keep this one going. Now, this podcast overview is brought to you by our family at Graphics Mafia. Buddy and Ryan will lay down some graphics on vinyl for you, or wraps or stickers, whatever you need, a little bit of design work. You have to go to graphics, GRAPHIX, mafia.com. They're on Instagram. They're on Facebook. They are on, dare I say the T word, TikTok. Go check them out. Graphics Mafia, good people. If you need stuff printed, maybe some little posters, a little bit of flyer deals, you need stickers, you name it, hit them up. Graphics with an X, mafia.com. All right, so I really can't delay any further. I'm going to go ahead and go into my segment that I recorded on Ernie, or about Ernie. Here we go. I just cannot believe that we're having to talk about the loss of our friend on this episode. It's been a tough year. These last couple years, rather, even 2020 into 2021, and we've lost far too many. And I recorded this segment a little separate than the normal audio with the normal flow because I just thought that it was right. I was messaging some of Ernie's friends, close friends, people that have been ride or die with him for a long time. And even though it was only a text or a message or a DM, it was hard to keep my composure knowing these guys are some of his best friends, And we were going to bump this episode out. Milestone episodes for us are important. We want to have key folks on, folks that have been on our list a while. And on Saturday night, when Saturday evening, news kind of started to spread. I don't know all the details of when exactly, we lost Ernie, but what I do know is, someone real close to me had called me on Saturday and, was like, "Yo, Jay, are you sitting down?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm sitting down. I'm working on some video. What's up?" And I just didn't know what to say. Like many of you, this kind of stuff is not easy. And, we lost Greg recently. We lost Scott and some other guys in the scene that we've talked about. Greg, I just didn't know what to say, Greg was in the hospital a while and, we said our prayers and we wanted everything to work out. And, weeks went by and, unfortunately it didn't. What makes this even tougher is none of us knew. Maybe outside of his immediate family, I don't know how many people knew. Maybe none. And one thing you guys know about me in this podcast, we never speculate on anything. Okay? The only thing that we know is Ernie's gone. And, to his wife, to his kids, his immediate family, his close friends, his club mates, his colleagues at work, we're going to be here with you through this. Messaging some of his very close friends, it was just too soon to put together a tribute episode. So, what I just want to say, to address the passing of Ernie is, again, never would have thought on this episode that we would be addressing this topic. I in my mind, Ernie was a true ambassador to this scene that we all love. I mean, there's no other way I see it. Someone that many of us looked up to, someone who was respected by all clubs, someone who was a father, a husband, a leader, and really just an amazing guy all around. Our friend, our brother, Ernie Macias. I hate saying gone far too soon, because you just don't want to say it with your friends. Someone had told me that Ernie was going to be, I think, 44 in January. I assume, talking to Ernie over the years or slapping hands with him, like down at the South Florida bowling tournament when he rolled in one year, he flew in, met him at Showfest 03, I think was the first time. Him and Steve, one of his good friends. I mean, dude, some of the best dudes out there you'll meet. Talented. I mean, Steve Wilk. I mean, dude, cut from the cloth of Max. I guess you could say. I mean, I mean that with all respect. I think he worked there a while. Much love, Steve. Max Fish. Brian Good. I mean, some of these guys that come to mind to me that were super close with Ernie, and there's plenty of others. I don't know all the names, but the messages that we've gotten just from the posts that we've made, listen, people have said, hey, thank you for the post. That's a drop in the bucket. I mean, this guy, Ernie Macias, a true legend. I mean, to me, he's just a guy that did so much. I look back at his lifetime, and I look at, from the late 90s to now, 25 years, call it. This guy has owned and built countless vehicles. 3 covers that I can think of for Mini Truckin. He shot numerous covers, shot numerous features, built Cadillacs, built hot rods, built mini trucks, built high school mini trucks, had 2 wonderful children, has an awesome wife. I just don't know what else to say, man. It's not easy, man. It's not. And, this isn't the only tribute that we're going to do. As I mentioned, some of his closest friends and the people that were nearest, to him from a homie perspective and club perspective and family perspective, they're just grasping, to try to comprehend all of this, right? I mean, I could only imagine, if he passed on Friday or Saturday. I'm recording this, on Tuesday right now, this segment, and I just couldn't imagine. I just couldn't. I guess my closing thoughts for the homie Ernie Macias right now is that there's going to be, there's a GoFundMe, all right? And I'm a big supporter of GoFundMe situations for reasons like this. I mean, this is what this tool, if you want to call it, was built for. And I'm looking at it right now, and I'm telling you, I just Googled GoFundMe Ernie Macias. And it's tough, man, because, you click the link and you see the picture of Ernie choking up with his wife, Melissa. You see Ernie with his 2 boys. You see his trucks, the stuff that he loved, the culture, the family, his boys. But you guys know, if you've been listening to this podcast, for me, it's super important to pay homage to those that, give these people their flowers while they're here. Let's not wait till someone passes away to say, hey, what a great person they were. And I can tell you, Ernie got his flowers while he was here. Everyone loved this dude. But you look at this GoFundMe that had a goal of $10,000. And as of the time that I'm recording this, it's $205 shy of $48,000. 169 people donated. Okay, and it's going to grow and it's going to go higher. We're going to do our part. I would ask if you can do anything. If you can give $1, $5, $10, $20, $50, whatever it is, even if it's a penny. This guy is a guy that deserves it. Okay, his family, any help that we can give to the Macias family, I urge you to just literally go out, open your Google app. I think Mike uses Bing. Nobody uses Bing. Open the Google app. Search GoFundMe Ernie Macias. Look on Facebook. Type in Ernie Macias. We'll share it. Go, please, to this GoFundMe and help this family. I can't even begin to unpack what they're going through. My son is 15. He's going to be 16. His son, his two sons, they're growing. They're, young adults. Let's help them out, man. Please. If you go, hey, I don't know how to use GoFundMe. I want to do something. If you want to do something else, I think there's going to be other fundraisers. If you want to purchase something from ourlifestylepodcast.com, merchandise, we will be donating proceeds like we've done in the past. We will be doing this for the Macias family at the end of this month. Mitch Henderson, we had a shirt that we did a year prior. That helped with the sales, and we were able to donate money to Mitch's mother. This one, we, of course, haven't put Ernie's truck on a shirt yet. But if you want to go out and purchase merchandise, we will be making a donation. Mike and I will go above and beyond, and we will add to that donation. Okay? But if you want to help, you can make a purchase. There's going to be other things. Some other folks have reached out to us to say, hey, we want to help. Here's what we're thinking. Can OLP get behind this idea to drive funds in 100% of what they're talking about? I said, dude, if it's for Ernie, sign me up. If it's for Ernie's family, sign us up. He was a real deal guy, man. And the few times I was around Ernie, the times I talked to him on the phone, the few times, the time we had him on the podcast, episode 21, lucky number 21, the times that I messaged him, the time that he voted for Bada Bing for Mini Truck of the Year and his comment in there, which I'll have to read sometime. I mean, dude, this guy was a straight up real dude. Please, if you can donate even $1, $2, $5, it doesn't matter, anything. This is a family that could use the help. And you could just imagine, Ernie's not with us anymore. He's not able to bring in, money for this family to help them. He's got two young adults in the house. He's got his wife. Please help them out. This shit ain't easy, man. And from afar, I looked up to Ernie. East Coast. He's West Coast. Hung out with him at shows. Watched his work. Read Mind of Macias when he was doing that blog. From the Mind of Macias blog, from the articles, the features, everything that he did for the scene. He was tight with Low Life Mikey. I felt like I knew Ernie from the first time I met him because I saw him on all the videos. And I saw him embracing this culture, and I saw his feature vehicles and his badass builds, and back in the Street Source days, the stuff that he was doing, dude. I still remember the Mitsubishi. Was it the Raider? I can't remember what it was. It was that 4-door truck that came out, and I thought to myself, like, it wasn't my favorite truck, man. Like, I saw the nose on it, and I was like, man, I just don't know about this truck. And then Ernie had a rendering. And I was like, I fuck with that. I can fuck with this thing now. Because of Ernie. I could fuck with the Mitsubishi Raider. And man, he loved his Raiders, didn't he? That motherfucker was diehard. And I would, as a Packers fan, I would love to see the Raiders win the Super Bowl this year. I really would. If you Google Ernie Macias Mitsubishi Raider, the rendering will come up, the 06. And I remember, I think, a comment from him one time that said, man, he wishes that he would have built that one. I don't think he ever got around to, building it. I think he owned one because he had the Low Life video. Shout out to Low Life Mikey. He had the windshield banner. But straight up and down, dude, I'm going on and on because this guy deserves it. You can check out the West Coast Influence DVD. Shout out to Radar. He posted from the West Coast Influence social media a couple behind-the-scene photos of Ernie. We've hashtagged RIP Ernie Macias. Many of you have hashtagged similar, no regrets CC, which Ernie, he would always chime in and be like, no regrets CC. And I was like, all right, man, you got me. I'm in this groove. I'm going to use it. And I've seen other hashtags. I've seen a couple that we've used in our Jefe. I remember someone first explained to me what El Jefe meant. They're like, you didn't know what that meant? I was like, no, I thought that meant Ernie. El Jefe. That was the name of his full-size Silverado when Alexander shot it for Truckin. I've seen RIP Ernie Macias, as I mentioned. Hashtag Ernie Macias. And many others. I had to record this segment a little bit separate just because, as I mentioned a minute ago, I had to kind of catch my composure. I was thinking about him here earlier. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this episode. Thank you so much for all the continued support. We do this for the love of the scene, for nothing else. And people like Ernie are the reason why we are where we are today in the scene. Sure, there's plenty that came before Ernie, and we've had a lot of those guys on, some of the ladies. But Ernie embraced it 1,000%. He built cool shit. He stood behind what he said he was going to do. And long live the legend. Mind of Macias, Ernie Macias, rest in peace. So much more to come in the coming week or two when we can fully put together a rest in peace episode for Ernie. There are some folks I've reached out to. If there's someone that you believe would be a guest that would want to come on and help immortalize his legacy, please email us, ourlifestylepodcast@gmail.com. Message me on Facebook Messenger. I know I'm not the best on getting back there all the time, but I will be on alert this next week or two. Let's do this for Ernie. No regrets, family. Much love and respect to you guys, to Melissa, his boys. We got your back. We're going to get through this with you guys, okay? Let's keep it going. Much love, brother. That's all I can say, man. I know I went on a little bit there, but I said my piece. Really look up to that dude. And we will do more. We'll do whatever we can to help his family. Go out there, support if you can, please. All right, so as I always say, it's not easy to transition off of a topic like this. I often think, what if I was that person that's no longer here? What would I want the scene or my friends or my, people that might follow me on social media or, like the stuff that I do, what would I want them to do? And it's kind of like when Brett Favre, when he lost his pops, and then he went out there and he played so well. He knew his dad would want him to go out there and play. And nobody would have argued with that. I mean, his pops was, one of his best friends, if not his best friend. And I think that's what we're going to do here. Like, we got to show our love for the scene. We got to push ahead. for all of the No Regrets members, the friends, the family. Let's do this the rest of this year and beyond. Tip our cap to the ambassador, Ernie Macias. So, a few things that I saved. I mentioned earlier the Spark Show. So, huge. Don Dizzy Davis said, so we did a thing this weekend. I honestly don't know what to say other than thank you. All the hours editing photos and making pics for Sparks, all the time spent on social media was 1,000 times worth it. And he kind of goes through and thanks a lot of people. Sean Rose, David Magotti, DJ Mays, Adam Tripp, of course, his brother. What a great photo. We were there the last 2 years, couldn't make it this year, but big ups, tip of the cap to the Spark Show. They got the pedal stomped. They support other shows. They get out there, and they keep it real deal Holyfield. There's a couple of tributes that I saved to Ernie. I am going to save those for next week. I think it will tie in if we end up doing the tribute episode for 251, possibly 252. We'll have to see how it works. Again, there's a lot to digest, so we'll share that coming up soon. Howard Austin, the homie. Howard. Dude, looks like he picked up another project. I'm not on social media as much, just trying to balance everything, but it looks like he got another Mazda. And I see a guy cutting the roof off. I mean, I don't know if these are old photos or what this is, but big ups to Howard. He goes to a lot of shows. He's a good dude. It has a date of August 15th. It's on Facebook. It's got to be true. So, pretty cool stuff. Always keeping the pedal stomped. And then this one's pretty cool. Mark Zitzer, good dude, big supporter of the podcast. He's recently chimed in on our YouTube channel, Our Lifestyle Podcast. He says, another mini Truckin' Saturday brought to you by For Yours. This is what 14 hours of metalwork looks like. Got the bed off, smoothed out the front of the bed, back of the cab. Also doing a fitment check on some billets. Just a truly great guy. I mean, he's got a big smile on his face. He's out there. He's got his Hammered Weekend Wear shirt on. Our favorite, one of our favorite clothing lines. He's actually got the one, Return of the Titans. Jimmy's Rod and Customs, Courtney Halliwell's Titan, and which Chico now owns. But, just a good dude, man. So big ups to the homie. Love seeing, just always out there having a good time. And then here's one. We don't share a lot from, maybe enough from the females, but Tony Marie says, when is your sober birthday? ? Mine is January 14th, and I'll have 24 years without drugs or alcohol. I never thought I would make it past 24 hours, and I never thought I would live past my drug overdose, yet here I am with you. Tony Marie, we had her in the All Time Low magazine write-up recently, right? ODB, live and uncut. You got to subscribe to All Time Low magazine. It's atlmagazine.com. You can buy individual issues. They do tend to sell out. You can cop a subscription. But Tony Marie, man, I got a lot of love for her because she's hustling. She's found her niche. I say niche. Some people say niche. She found her niche with the Lincolns. No, wait, Cadillacs. Cadillacs, damn it. With the Cadillacs, she's good people. Networks really well. She's traveling all over, and just good peeps. So it's a cool story. Check it out, and big ups to her. So those are a few that I saved on the good old Bookface. Digital. I would encourage. There's a lot of free content out there. It's crazy. I often see people go, man, I miss Mini Truckin' Magazine, and I remind people, well, there's All Time Low Magazine. And you'll hear them again, I miss Mini Truckin' Magazine. Well, guess what? There's Grinder TV. My brother from another mother, Brian Good, just such an awesome guy. Look up Grinder TV if you're not following him on YouTube. You'll see he's got about 72.2 thousand subscribers with 188 videos. And he recently posted a new video painting Mike Finnegan's truck, mini truck. 51,000 views. Love seeing the success. Lots of great comments. Finnegan's Garage, which is Finnegan, he obviously chimed in as well. So big ups to Brian and the entire team. Custom Life, Custom with a K, okay? Custom Life, he's cut from that cloth of Brian and doing his own thing as well. But check him out, 14.4K. Go out there and show the homie some love. Custom Life, he says Custom Life Clothing is a grassroots company that was founded in 2003. Here on YouTube, you'll find all kinds of videos. Latest video from him about 3 weeks ago, Bag 94 Toyota mini truck, Weekend Warrior. Always does a good job, too, with his thumbnails. So Frank, Brian, both repping FFF or Forbidden Fantasy for those scoring at home. Go show the homie some love. Events. So last weekend we posted photos from Northwest Cruise to the Pines. You can go back on our Instagram or Facebook feed. You can, on Instagram, you can tap on that NW Cruise to the Pines and you can follow them. Perfect poise, tip of the cap. You guys do a great thing. Love seeing the photos. Craig Braid, our Pacific Northwest Connect. We got to get a good nickname for him. I'm going to call him DB Cooper. I don't know why, because I love some DB Cooper stories. There was recently kind of another one with Josh Gates on Expedition Unknown. But DB Cooper was from up there. He was the one that hijacked that plane. I think the only hijacking that's ever went unsolved. That's the word I'm looking for. But I don't know where that connection came from. I guess the Pacific Northwest. But Craig Braid, I don't know. CB Cooper? DB Cooper? Okay. The Spark Show, big ups to them. Because of this episode, we didn't really have a chance to do audio, kind of a wrap-up. Maybe we'll try to run that for next week. Print, I still have not received my new street trucks, so that does sometimes happen. I won't get the early issues, so hopefully next week. Big ups to Tim, NC Florida, big listener. He's out there, as some of the fans from the local radio guy I listened to for years and got a lot of love for. He used to say FTE, full trucker effect. I know Josh Ellis loves that one. But big ups to Tim, NC Florida, FTE, buddy. Give us a couple of the pulls of the horn. And, dude, if you don't have the over-the-top deal, in the truck setup, exercising that arm, grinding those gears, man, I don't know what you're doing, dude. We got to get you set up, brother. Print, so again, new all-time low magazine Mike mentioned last week. That's coming soon. Those are the scene updates, and they're brought to you by Garage Gear Clothing. Again, this one wasn't easy. Rest in peace to our homie Ernie Macias. GarageGearClothing.com does offer free shipping in the good old US of A. US of A, yes, US of A. Go out there, order some merch, get ready for the holidays, get those white elephants or whatever you call it. Get those gifts ready. You got shirts and stickers and all kinds of stuff, $5-10 and up. But you got to go to GarageGearClothing.com. All right, next up, the key show updates. We're winding down this year, and I want to give a huge shout out to Lone Star Throwdown. We love this show. It's every February in Conroe, Texas. If you haven't been out, make plans. The weather is, it's a little bit cooler before it gets crazy hot for the summer, the spring, and whatnot. But Conroe, Texas, you got to come out. Now, if you are thinking you're going to bring a vehicle, you need to go to LoneStarThrowdown.com. You need to pre-register because I haven't got an update on the amount that's left. But remember, they sold, I think it was 700, 800-ish, in the first quarter of the day one. So with 190 days or so till the show, you got to go to LoneStarThrowdown.com and pre-register. Even if you're going to fly in or drive in, it's an amazing event. There's a lot of vehicles there, everything from trucks, SUVs, classics, mini trucks. They do the top 10 mini truck awards. They, of course, have their famous awards all done through Phil Built. But get out there. There's tons of vendors. That's one of the things I love about that event. There's a lot of vendors like AccuAir that'll be out there. There's vendors indoors, kind of under the covered area as well. But it's a place that you can go. You can buy plenty of merchandise from vendors. There's tons of food vendors. So much to be seen. But LoneStarThrowdown.com if you want to pre-register. So just looking at the rest of the year, for SlamFest 30, you'll hear, I'll talk about that here in a minute before we go into Doug Starbuck's audio. And really for 2021, we're pretty much looking at the last few shows that we're really tied in here is so Attitude Check is the 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd. This one, for some reason, Joey, it's a little bit tougher to find. We'll post it up. It's a little bit tougher to find for whatever reason on Facebook. It always pulls up the older event whenever I locate it. But this is at Mr. B's Bluegrass Park, and it is in Woodford, Virginia, pre-reg 30 at gate 40. And we'll make sure we share that flyer. So that's basically this weekend. So everybody that's going out there, have a good time. We'll be sharing some photos from that event. From there, you got Small Town Throwdown. Unfortunately, as I mentioned recently, I won't be able to be there. I do believe Mike is planning on going, and those show shirts just printed from Graphic Disorder. They look amazing. If you want to get in or have someone that's going to be there and to copy a shirt, check out at Graphic Disorder on Instagram, and you can see how good that print looks. Of course, there's a little Easter egg in there from our friends up in the Panhandle. If you look closely, you'll see that in that artwork. But Small Town Throwdown's technically September 4th, St. Cloud, Florida. Really from there, I'll talk about Slamfest again in a few minutes before Doug's audio. SEMA is the first week in September, is the first week in November. We pretty much all know that. Laying at the Lake is the 12th through the 14th of November. Grapeland, Texas. So we'll cover a little bit more on that as we get closer. And then Bayou Showdown the weekend before Thanksgiving. I think it's the 19th through the 21st, technically. Slidell, Louisiana, as we had mentioned. But the key show updates brought to you by our family at the West Coast Influence. Please go out if you can. Go to minitruckfilm.com. Order the Blu-ray or DVD. It's a documentary-style film about the influence of the West Coast and that influence that it had on the entire scene and mini truck scene in general. All right. Podcast updates. So really going to try to put the pedal down and do some more flip-throughs. Really just kind of been balancing. If you take a look at our YouTube channel, Our Lifestyle Podcast, we've had a little bit of subscriber growth, which is good. And I do have some big plans for more video stuff. I've been learning different programs, and I've got some ideas for to continue on the Behind the Build series. Of course, we had Ron Perkins from Hammered Weekend Wear. He came on as a guest when he was here in Florida, and that was pretty cool because he's had a couple of cover trucks, and there was so much to talk about. So I'm looking forward to expanding that. I've recently picked up some new equipment, and that's going to make that my job there a little bit easier. So good stuff. We're hoping to have some more updates later this month. So I know, God, man, before you know it, this month is going to be over. But we'll be looking to bring some cool new stuff to you guys here real soon. And these podcast updates brought to you by Joey at Get Decked. Now, Joey also throws Attitude Check. So if you're an enthusiast and you want your photo on a skate deck, Joey can do it. Look up Get Decked, 2 words, on Facebook, Instagram. The other cool thing is, let's say your significant other is into cars or trucks or whatever. He could pretty much put any photo on a skate deck. So it makes a nice wall hanger, something to put in the garage, on the mantle, you name it. If you're a show promoter and you want to do something a little bit different with your event next year, maybe add in some top 10 awards or something like that, he can do it as well. It's Joey at Get Decked. A couple Airhead Nation updates. Bob Hayes, he said, well, the trip away has finished, and we had such a great time. It truly did not last that long, but when you have fun, it never is long enough. And he's been married to his awesome wife, Tina, for 42 years. They've been living together in sin, he says, going steady, and been married. We've been together for 50 years. So 42 years married, 50 years together, I think, is if I'm doing the math right there. So much love to Bob Hayes, of course, Mini Truck Hall of Fame. We'll have so much more to share in regards to that. Craig Braid, as I mentioned earlier, CB Cooper. I'm going to call him DB Cooper, CB Cooper. Our homie Craig from the Pacific Northwest, happy 20th anniversary to Diane. And I forget if I covered that one. I don't think I did earlier, but much love to them, man. They're just great people. We certainly appreciate them and all the support for the podcast. And then here's one from Corey, SAUER. It's kind of a longer post, but he said, I want to share something with you that isn't easy for me to say. we all get caught up in fake social media crap. I personally am responsible for painting an untrue picture of my real life. I suppose everyone does to a certain extent. Nearly everything other than my underlying love for my family, my children, wife and children, he says, and many trucks, wink, is a facade here. For me personally, I lost myself many years ago. I've let life, work, in general public beat me down to a shell of what I was. I sure wish I could find who I was again. And, it's kind of a long post there, but, there was a lot of comments on it and, a lot of positive stuff, and I think it's just important. It reminds me all the time that, in social media, people share what, oftentimes what they either want or what they love, what they have, and things like that. And there is obviously, the mindset that a lot of people have that it's like, oh, these people have better stuff or this or that. I remind everyone, don't get caught up with the social media stuff because, again, we don't always go out there kind of like Corey and post, like if we're having a down moment, maybe we're having a tough day, and things like that. So, take it for what it is with a grain of salt. Oftentimes, I see people post stuff all the time, and, if you don't like it, you just mute the person, you unfollow them. If it's something that, you love, then keep following them and just do what you do. But, it's if you look at the comments here, there's a lot of positive stuff. And it's, at first when I read it, I was like, man, where is this going? But I can really see the truth in a lot of what he said. And if you want to continue reading and read that whole segment that he posted that ends with, by the way, have a rad day, everyone. It's Corey and then last name Sauer. Look him up on Facebook. So those are the Airhead Nation updates brought to you by our family at Hammered Weekend Wear. Hammered Weekend Wear continues to support the scene, crisscrossing the country from east to west, and he's going to be back on track. I talked to Ron the other day. Had some hiccups with the truck. Hopefully we'll link up with him for 251 for a few minutes. But if you want to show some support, HAMMERD, weekendwear.com. I recently just got my DJ Mays teal short shirt, and man, I love that thing. Of course, the Hummer shirt as well is awesome. I got the tank tops, got the banner. So excited for what's to come. He did give a little bit of hint that that date is quickly approaching, which is going to be, I think, right around the 1st of September, maybe Labor Day weekend. So expect a new drop. If you have the monthly or the yearly subscription where you get all of those T-shirts, then of course you'll get those. And, of course, I'm going to call it open enrollment. Around December and into January is when you can lock in and get all of the Hammered Weekend Wear shirts for the upcoming year for one small price, and you save considerably over buying individual shirts. And, by the way, all of those shirts are fire. So it's not like you're going to be like, oh, man, I got this one. I'm not really a fan. All of the Hammered Weekend Wear family of shirts and artwork, always amazing. It's HAMMERD. Weekendwear.com. Let them know that OLP sent you. So, man, I covered so much. We're going to roll in. I think I'm going to have some audio from Ruben. We're going to link up midweek. So we'll roll in for a few minutes, just get a quick update from him. And then we'll have the Doug Starbuck audio. Really was a lot of fun sitting down with Doug. Talks about so much, and we'll jump into that. So, with that being said, be safe. Rest in peace to our homie Ernie Macias. Please go out to the GoFundMe if you can. To All Time Low Magazine, Hammered Weekend Wear, Joey at Get Decked, West Coast Influence, Garage Gear Clothing, Graphics Mafia, of course the Custom Car Show Productions family. Thank you for all the support. Let's roll into some audio now. Stay on the rise. Peace. Yo, as I mentioned, we got Ruben back in the catbird seat. It seems like just recently we linked up, dude, but you're back. You're back from the future. No, you're back from the past. Episode 250, man. How you doing?
Hey, Jay, I'm doing great. I hope everyone out there is doing just as well. Man, hey, yeah, I was on, 248, I believe. And now, look, we're, dude, 250.
Yeah.
Can't believe, man, 250.
And did you jump on the OLP train? I'm trying to remember if we had, was it 50 and then 100 and then 150? I think it was 50. I think it was, you were on 50.
Yeah, I was on 50, and then every, I guess, 50th episode I've managed to be on. So, yeah, thank you for keeping that going.
Yeah, man. I talked to Ron the other day from Hammered Weekend Wear, and he was saying he thinks he was on like 51, so he wants to keep that streak going. So I said, oh man, I guess we got to call Hank next week, you know.
Yeah, well, if Hank if Hank didn't run down that battery on that cell phone.
Yeah, exactly, man. He's always out there on that thing. But dude, it's always good to link up. Now listen, dude. I had a segment earlier in the podcast, and it's not an easy topic. We are going to do, as I had alluded to you prior, that we're going to do a tribute episode. But man, I tell you, like, you talk about a loss that we had, man. It's just devastating for our scene, you know.
Yeah, my heart goes out to Ernie's family and his boys and his wife, and this is someone that I did consider. We weren't good close friends, but I considered him a friend, and man, I'm still trying to kind of come to terms with it, but definitely a tough one.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I really encouraged everyone, if they can, go to the GoFundMe. They can Google Ernie Macias GoFundMe, and you can donate there. The good thing is there's not a minimum donation amount, so even if you can only give a few bucks, you can even do it anonymously. I'm looking at it right now, Ruben, and I mean, dude, there's like people that have given hundreds, couple hundred, 50. I even saw one in there like a $10,000 anonymous donation, and
wow, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely led by a lot of people, and his club, his entire club, a lot of great guys and gals in that club, and my heart goes out to them as well, because not only did they lose a leader, but they all lost a friend.
Yeah, they did, and I did not mention this earlier. I think when I had recorded earlier in the week, it just didn't dawn on me, but Mind of Macias on Instagram, which was Ernie's Instagram. This is it says, this is Kathleen writing this for Melissa. Okay, so Melissa was his wife's name, I believe, Melissa Macias. But it's a screenshot that she had like posted, I think, on Facebook. But it basically says, I'm blown away by the outpouring of love for Ernie and our family. I am not in the mindset to comment or respond to anyone right now, but know it means a lot to read how many people loved him, to see the various memories posted by so many people. Thank you for the love, comfort, support of all of our friends and family. Love, Melissa. So, Melissa obviously is going through this really tough time, and Kathleen was kind enough to type that up. But it's just like I said earlier in the podcast. I mean, it was tough for me to keep my composure, and just want everyone to know out there that we are going to do that tribute episode. And there are some talks of other people doing some things. If you want to go to ourlifestylepodcast.com, make a purchase, we will be donating proceeds, and Mike and I will add on to that to go towards this GoFundMe. But yeah, Ruben, it's just a tough thing, my brother.
Yeah, definitely, and it's gonna take a while to for a lot of us to get over it.
It is, and let's all just try to be positive, help these folks, and obviously a lot of club members are just torn up about it. There's so many posts from different our No Regret members. So again, as I said earlier, much love, and it's not an easy topic to pivot off of. But, Ruben, Ernie would want the scene to continue to thrive, and that's what I kind of mentioned earlier when Brett Favre's pops passed away. He went out there and he played just an unreal game. I think he ended up with 399 yards, man, and he didn't even barely play the fourth quarter. It was pretty crazy experience. But pivoting off that very tough topic, how's everything else been?
Everything's been good. Busy at the shop with Chris, and getting stuff done. And man, this weather, this humidity, it's probably just as humid here as it is out there in Florida for you. And today was a pretty nice day. It only broke 80, so it wasn't in the hundreds like usual. But life is good. Life is pretty good for me right now.
Yeah, dude, that's good to hear. We won't go all into this topic, but you talked about the humidity and stuff. Josh Ellis had sent me an article recently, and dude, at first I was like, man, what website is this? This is some crazy ass shit. But if you want an entertaining read, go out and Google Business Insider drones weather. It talks about how rain drones in Dubai use electric shocks against clouds to trigger rain to battle extreme temperatures. I read this article at first. I'm like, man, this is it's a little like sci-fi-ish, but dude, it's some crazy ass stuff. And I do think in the future, whether if it's not already being not conspiracy theory manipulated, so to speak, but with storms. I mean, there's been people talking about, man, could we get storms to do this or to go to different areas and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what the future holds, man. I mean, damn, dude, if we're talking electric cars in the next 10 years, most of us driving electric cars. I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
Man, alien technology. We'll just leave it there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we always like to jab about, pop culture and stuff. 35 years ago today, an album that you may know, Slippery When Wet by Bon Jovi, came out, dude. I know you had a mullet back in the day, and you were playing the air guitar jumping on the bed. I guarantee it, man. Now, I mean, do you remember this album, or were you living on a prayer?
Okay, well, all right. You just dated me because I was playing real guitar, and I was in high school.
Damn.
So, yeah, I think I was a senior in high school, or no, I was a junior in high school somewhere. No, senior in high school. I just started my senior year in high school. But yeah, I remember that album came out, and that album was, dude, it was hot.
It definitely was, and I looked it up earlier just to kind of get a feel for it, because I'm always kind of curious in an album, like the magnitude of it, like what was the sales numbers on it. And the RIAA, they don't always go back and kind of update stuff. They'll, I don't know, years later they'll go back. But last, I think the number was like 12. It was 12 times platinum. And of course, that makes it one of the top, 100 best-selling albums in the U.S. And but dude, man, what was interesting, a lot of people don't know, there was a rejected Wet T-shirt cover that was rejected for the Japan release. And that was interesting because you look at it by today's standards and you're like, it's not even really cleavage, I mean, it's a woman with a yellow shirt on. But I always thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I remember that. And, it's another thing about that album, that 35 years and that album still holds up today. Yeah, I mean, you could listen to it. It's just the way it was recorded and how it was recorded. I mean, it sounds like they just put it out last week.
Yeah, and you think about some of the singles like "You Give Love a Bad Name," "Living on a Prayer," "Wanted Dead or Alive," and then "Never Say Goodbye." I mean, 4 huge hit songs, but yeah, you look back, it really defined that era. I know they've done over the years like a 2 CD special edition, like in '98, and then like in 2010 they did special edition bonus tracks, kind of just live versions and stuff like that. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm not the biggest Bon Jovi fan in the world. I mean, believe me, I know the songs and whatnot, but I tell you, that band has sold a lot of albums, and I mean, they're beloved, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's seen a million faces and he rocked them all.
Yeah, I mean, the rumor was back in the day, I don't think Mike was ever this cool, but he supposedly was running with those guys, and I was like, man, I don't know that Mike had enough hair to be in a hair band. You know what I'm saying?
He had a wig.
Yeah, he had a wig. I mean, him and Hank were running in circles, I heard. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I think Josh's wife really figured it out, Nicole. She's like, I think Hank was like, what was that movie that Brad Pitt was in where the guy aged backwards? I think that's kind of Hank, because she was like, how did Hank roll with, like, Hugh Hefner in the 60s? And he was cool. And I was like, she was like, I think he ages backwards. But that's them over at Hammered Weekend Wear. It must be Ron just running them, running them too hard.
Hey, it could be like that Quantum Leap TV show.
Yes. I always remember the little machine on there. The name was Ziggy. I'm like, where the hell did they get that from? What the hell were they smoking? Yeah. But dude, this year marks the 22nd anniversary, or this month, I should say, month and year. But August 2021 is the anniversary of Street Trucks. And I was looking back at my issues earlier. I was kind of putting them in a binder. New video that I put up on YouTube, kind of a shorter video. But, that first year was only 3 issues. We talked about it in the past, Ruben, and then, of course, they went monthly. I mean, can you believe that magazine's been around now 22 years, man? We're really getting old.
Yeah, we are, and how time flies. I mean, I remember, like I had said before on the podcast, how leading up to that first issue, they would send you out the cover. It was just a cover on like a kind of like on a harder piece of cardboard, and they did that for months up until the release of the cover. And I know I got some of those stashed away somewhere, but and it doesn't seem like that long ago when I was getting those in the mail, but man, I guess it has been.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I got to get my hands on one of those. I know Christina, Hot Rod Christina, her name will come up with Doug Starbuck in a few minutes. But Chris Schmidt also had one of those, and they're pretty neat because it's like a little bit of the history that I don't think a lot of people remember. And what was ironic is I have a couple of the first issues, and mine, of course, didn't have the USPS label on them, but all of my issues from 2 on did. And luckily, those are the ones that you can actually peel off, and they don't rip the paper. But, man, I look back to those original issues like I talked about back in 2019, which was the 20th anniversary. And it's crazy, dude. There's just so much good content in there. I mean, those 3 were so connected to the scene, with features and word on the street. Man, I tell you, it was a damn good run, and I'm just glad to see the magazine still thriving.
Right. After all these years and all the other books that have gone away and stuff, and yet they're still, they're still out there. They're still relevant.
Oh, yeah. Now, speaking about our guest this week, I mean, dude, it was an honor to sit down with Doug Starbuck, and I know that you've talked with him over the years as well.
I have known Starbuck since the early 90s, and you guys are going to enjoy that interview. Starbuck is a very good guy, very soft-spoken, but, man, very good guy. We were both inducted in the Hall of Fame the same year, along with Brian McCormick and John Tondro, and as I was telling you earlier, it was kind of cool having them in my same induction class, and because those were the guys that kind of ran around with back then. So to have those guys, it kind of made it a little extra special. But yeah, you guys will definitely enjoy that interview with Doug.
Oh yeah, we briefly hit upon kind of the sport truck era, this movement that's coming back, but when you think of just the different colors we've seen from the paint schemes and Mark over at California Speed and Custom, you got to be stoked too, Ruben. I know you and I haven't talked about it a whole lot, but this whole era that's coming back, man, you could pull up at a show with the static drop on Beltec, killer wheels, and a nice, paint job, and just, even with stock interior, and have a blast these days.
Yeah, you can. And what makes it nicer is, what I like about it is bringing some of those old styles back, but with today's technology. Whether it's the bigger wheels, or whether it's the updated suspension, whether it's bags on, whether AccuAir, or one of the higher tech air management systems, or killer paint, or whatever it is. That's what I like, seeing the older style but with the newer technology.
Yeah, definitely, and hopefully we continue to see the OEM, or the aftermarket rather, embrace this, with some of the billet grills and things like that. I look back at the magazines and say, man, if we could have just had a warehouse and stocked up on the Empire billet and the Trends and some of these Phantom grills and stuff. Stuff's getting hard to get, but I love that it's all coming back, and hopefully we'll continue to see just some killer stuff over the next few years.
I think so too, and I think, I wouldn't doubt if back east somewhere somebody's got a warehouse full of this stuff. I mean, there was Godfathers back there in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
They got to have as much stuff as they were buying from Sir Michael's when I was there. He's got to have stuff stashed away somewhere. Someone does. It's out there. It's just got to be found.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And someone I just thought of that I wanted to give a shout out. I didn't get a chance to mention it earlier, but one of the homies that is a big supporter of the podcast, and he always looks out for us, is Brian Miller. And he's on Instagram. It's XZIST, exist_arts. And, I don't know him personally, but he went to a lot of shows like back in the day. I've always followed him. And he has sent me over the years a bunch of good photos. We always give photo credit. And whether it be like Brian Gendro's, the white ombre, some of the trucks from, other trucks from that, the chop shop. But he also sent some that we'll be sharing that will tie in to Doug Starbuck's. And, you can remember, how many trucks he painted, Ruben, so many of them. But it's always awesome to see that, people took those photos, 95, 96, 97, back before we had smartphones, dude.
Yeah, it's I have shoe boxes full of pictures that I got to go through and put them in albums. But, you and I have talked about it before. And, you'd go to a show and you'd take, whether it was disposable cameras or you had a 35 millimeter camera, and you'd, take so many rolls of film and you'd take pictures. And, the concept of taking a picture and not knowing if it came out or you got what you wanted to get, it wasn't like today where you could take a picture and, oh, I don't like it, I got to take another one.
Yeah, but, it took some talent too.
Yeah, it did. It did. I'd like to see chicks take selfies with a disposable camera.
Oh my God! Yeah,
I had to throw that in, but some of these pictures that have come out, even some of the videos that guys have been posting and stuff, whether it's waiting in for a show or at a run or whatever, just cruising, it's kind of cool. It takes you back to what was going on back in those days.
Yeah, speaking of that, I've got a gem of a video that I'll be sharing probably mid next week, I think it is. And it'll tie into a photo we've shared in the past, but we've unarchived some footage, some video from that exact day back in the late 90s. And we, of course, matched up the dates. So more coming on that. And thanks to Kerry from IF Customs. I talked to him recently, and, he gave me a call. We were texting back and forth on stuff. And, it's always cool to catch up with good people. But, yeah, man, before we end the segment, Ruben, just want to say congrats. I know that you work hard and, with the C1500 nonsense. And, man, the page, you blasted through 30K. And you always have some pretty cool posts on C1500 nonsense.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, that 30K, man, that took some effort. And I want to thank everybody that follows that page. And if you guys are sending me stuff, I do go through my messages and stuff. And, I will post your pictures and stuff. And I am working on merchandise. But, again, I just do that on the side for fun. And, again, I just want to thank everybody that follows that page, and I really appreciate it.
No doubt. And why don't you give a huge shout out, because I know recently you partnered up with CB. Man, he's getting sideways on Fridays out of the shop. But Chris Burns, man, you guys are burning the midnight oil, and now everything's OSHA approved in this place, right? I mean, for the record.
Oh, for the record, yeah, of course.
All right, Chris,
yeah.
We're just checking on you, man.
No, Chris is my brother. Chris is a good guy, and yeah, I'm over there, helping out wherever I can. But no, things are busy. Things are really, really busy, and busy is good. So, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, kick ass, man. Well, it's always good linking up, Ruben. We're going to roll in. I know everyone's anxiously awaiting. They're going to roll into Mr. Doug Starbuck, the man, the myth, the legend. And I would highly encourage, if you're a new listener, please follow or subscribe, depending on the podcast app you're using. If you're on an iPhone, go into the pre-installed podcast app, tap on Library, select OLP, scroll down, all the way down, and tap on the 5-star review. It really helps us out. Ruben, anything else you got, brother?
Hey, one other thing I just want to say, congratulations to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, episode 250. Who would have thought?
Who'd have thunk it 6 years later? Thanks, man.
No, thank you. Thank you, everybody. This is all you guys. You guys did this.
Rest in peace, Ernie Macias. Let's roll in, and we'll be working on a tribute episode, folks. Everybody be safe out there and have a great weekend. We'll see you, Ruben.
Take care. Peace, everybody.
Yo, and as I mentioned, we're getting ready to roll in here with audio from Doug Starbuck, the legend. Would like to remind everyone that Slamfest 30, yes, the 30th anniversary of the famed Slamfest is going down this year in October, 2 months away or so, in sunny Tampa, Florida. Come on down the 9th and 10th of October. Make those plans now. Always beautiful weather, knock on wood, in October, and it's the 30th anniversary for Slamfest. You can check the hashtag Slamfest30 for more, or just search Slamfest on Facebook. Pre-registration is still happening. You can save $20, and that $20 is like getting a free show shirt. Go out there today, Slamfest on Facebook. Yo, as I mentioned, episode 250, our milestone guest. We got to thank Doug Starbuck so much for coming on, man. How you doing, Doug?
I'm doing great. How are you, Jason?
Hey, everything's good, man. I appreciate your time. Dude, just looking back at all the work that you've done over the years, man, it's an honor to sit down because, man, you've painted so much. I wanted to kind of ask you, like, would you mind giving like a little bit of a background for those that may not know, who Doug Starbuck is?
Who I am or where I came from? I grew up in Garden Grove, California. I started painting at the ripe young age of 14 years old. I hooked up with a friend that lived down the street and started helping him out of his garage, and it went on from there.
Man, that's pretty cool. Back in those days of you growing up there in California, I mean, it had to have been good times. I mean, did you ever were you into like surfing or bikes? Because like the bikes were big back then. Like even the Schwinns and all that stuff. Like, was any of that a part of your childhood?
Oh yeah. I used to have a Schwinn 10-speed. I could ride a wheelie all the way down the street on it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I never did any racing or anything like that with bicycles, or I skateboarded for fun. Other than that, I mean, just a normal childhood. Played baseball a lot.
Oh, did you? Okay, that's cool.
Oh yeah.
And it seems like too back in that day too, like the surf culture was big. I mean, the car culture's always been huge there. And I've been kind of curious, like, so you mentioned you've been painting since 14. Like, what was the gateway into that? Was it like a family member or maybe shop class, or like what really got you hooked into painting?
No, it was actually, my family had moved from Garden Grove to Anaheim. A guy down the street was painting out of his backyard or out of his driveway or whatever, and he was doing stripes, believe it or not. This was in 1974.
Wow.
He was painting Pintos and MGs and, trucks. I mean, just anything that the dealers would give him, and we were putting stripes on them, and basically in his driveway.
Wow.
And then there was the year after that, I believe that summer, we drove to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and did work on dealers' lots right on the back lot. Yeah, but like I said, I was only 14 or 15 years old, and I picked up on it real quick.
Yeah, what's one of your fond memories from back then? Was it just like more the road trip, or was it getting there and working hard? Or, I mean, what do you kind of remember most about those good old days, man?
Oh, good old days. Yeah, that's the 70s. I mean, like I said, I mean, it was just fun. I mean, I grew up, building models and painting models as a younger kid. And then to take it on as a hobby or as a job, if you want to say. I mean, it started out as a hobby and became a job. But I don't even know how to answer that question, because we didn't look at it that way. It was just we had fun. We had fun doing what we did. I worked for several different van converters and growing up, I mean, all the way until I was probably 22 or 23 years old, I worked for different van converters around Southern California. I was moved to St. Louis when I was 18 and worked out there for 2 years for a place called Midwest RV.
Wow. Yeah, dang, man. So, yeah, you've done a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, breaking into the customs, that was probably the turning point, if you want to say, and that had to do with the gas crunch hitting, and the gas crunch in, I believe it was 88 or 89, and nobody wanted to buy vans anymore. Mm-hmm. So we started doing customs.
Yeah, and earlier in this episode, I kind of had a segment talking about the loss of our friend in the scene, Ernie Macias, rest in peace. And when I watched Ernie on the West Coast Influence, he talked about, and so many truckers will talk about this. I mean, he was really ingrained in the culture. I mean, he had his hand in the lowrider stuff. Of course, he was a hardcore mini trucker, but he mentioned, which I truly believe, the mini trucks were kind of built out of that gas crunch in the 70s with the vans, because you look back to the vanners, and the vanners were kind of like, in my opinion, the original mini truckers, right? And then, as they had, kids and stuff, but then, in the 80s, to your point, when gas prices, or late 70s, early 80s, it seemed like a lot of people did flock to the smaller trucks with the 4-cylinders.
Yep. And the dealers, like I said, like I mentioned before, the dealers weren't selling the vans, and the mini trucks were selling. So we started doing the mini trucks then. Even right for the dealer's lot, we were putting stripes on them, and they were selling them right off the dealer lot with stripes on them.
Oh yeah. So you talk about kind of like into the 80s, right, and being over in St. Louis and spending a couple years there and doing the van stuff. Like in those years, like for the 80s into maybe even the 90s, like at what point did you kind of establish, because my understanding was like you had your own business even back in the day. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that early business that you had, that you owned?
Yeah, my first shop was in Long Beach, California. We were doing minivans. I mean, the Toyota vans, the Mitsubishi vans, mm-hmm. Rangers, Toyota trucks. I mean, we were doing all that kind of stuff. I got introduced, believe it or not, and you're going to recognize the name, was a guy named Chris Heath. Mm-hmm. And I got introduced to him, and he had a Blazer, and he talked to me about painting it. And then the gas crunch hit, my business fell apart, and I moved. I moved from, believe it or not, I was living in Costa Mesa, California. I moved to the desert. And about 6 months later, Chris called me. I was living in Joshua Tree, California. Chris called me and says, "Hey, you still interested in painting my Blazer?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why not?" I had gone to work for a dealer, and it was just a normal body shop. I was a body shop manager up at Yucca Valley Ford, and I said, "Yeah, why not? Bring it up." So I bought a compressor and put a compressor in my garage and painted his Blazer. And of course, he was in Bonsai Cruisers, and I got involved with that. And of course, Brian McCormick was in Bonsai Cruisers, mm-hmm. Or was affiliated with Bonsai. I don't know if he was. I think he was in Bonsai, but so I got introduced to him and painted his Blazer and painted a bunch of other things, and it exploded from there.
So in those early days, if I recall, was that the company, was it called Starbucks? And then, because I remember seeing like Stage 1, right? Many of us know in the 90s, but there's that famous photo that folks have shared with us of the hard body with a convertible or, a topless. Right. And then I see the banner, Starbucks. Like, were you close to those guys, or what was the relationship there?
Actually, I mean, in 1991, I bought my Blazer and I fixed it up and showed it with the, I don't know if you probably heard of this, because the S10 pickup trick-up contest. Mm-hmm. Yes. And it was put on by the Dealer Association in Southern California, or the West Coast, I should say. There were 3 different shows, and first place was $10,000. And we basically thought, we're going to build this. I'm going to build this Blazer. And of course, I had just met my wife now, but my girlfriend then. And we thought, I'm going to build this Blazer, and we're going to show it in Pomona and see what happens. And we didn't really think that we had a chance in Pomona. We thought we're going to skip San Jose and go straight to Washington, because we'll have a better chance there. And we ended up winning Pomona.
Yeah.
And to get to your story there, then with that 10 grand, I actually opened my shop in Riverside. And then John Tondro from Stage One actually opened his shop. I think it was probably about a year later, opened his shop right across the alley from me.
Awesome.
So yeah, we were, you know, I'm not going to say connected, but you know, he moved in right across from me and we became good friends and I mean, the story's there. So.
Yeah, and I would encourage folks, if you just Google John Tondro, just how it sounds, Our Lifestyle Podcast, you can go back and listen to that episode. I mean, a lot of respect for him and, you know, those guys. And ironically enough, I was telling someone this story earlier when Ernie Macias, rest in peace, when he had chimed in on one of the posts when we had John Tondro on, he was talking about, I think John and Stage One, they lowered his first truck. I mean, he was like taking it back to high school, and, you know, that Stage One logo was, you know, synonymous with, you know, badassery, you know, kind of like even, you know, with Starbucks and that type of thing. Now, I remember seeing an old post back in the day, and like on Straight Source, you had talked, you had commented and you had mentioned like, so did you sold that original business? Was that right? And then you had like a no compete, and then you kind of did your own thing for a little while.
Yeah, I sold the business in 2000. And I was under a 2-year no compete, and I went to work for somebody for, you know, I'm going to say just under a year, and some things happened, you know, with the business, if you want to say, and I ended up quitting there. And then I was just tinkering with, you know, out of my garage or whatever. And then of course, what's really weird is right at the 2-year anniversary, if you want to say, I got contacted by a Harley, an aftermarket Harley company called Hellbound Steel, about painting their bikes. And I said, yeah, sure. You know, how many? Oh, you know, 3 or 4 a month. You know, whatever. Well, that turned into about 60 a month.
Wow. 60? Wow.
60 bikes a month within, I mean, we did that for probably 3 years.
Wow.
And with that happening, I was able to actually move into the building that I'm in now, which is owned by Rob McGregor, who owns No Limit Engineering. And I've been here now for almost 18 years.
And that was like when you basically sold Starbucks, I think it was referred to as. Then you know, when after your kind of time, you know, not having your own business, then you're at, is it Starside Design now?
Yeah, now it's Starside.
Very cool.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, when I had the business in Riverside, Starbucks, it was Starbucks Auto Graphics. When the lady that bought it from me, she changed the name to Starbucks Custom and Collision, I believe it was. So, yeah.
Yeah,
she didn't want any, like, she bought the business and she bought the name, but she didn't really want any liability from Starbucks Auto Graphics, so she changed the name a little bit.
I see. Yep. Yeah, and I remember reading, you know, that story, just to kind of go back to it, when you had won that prestigious award and that cash money. I think I remember seeing that tied into the magazine, and we'll talk more about your Blazer in a few minutes.
Right.
What, you know, talking about, you know, the shift from painting like trucks and cars to like motorcycles, was it an easy shift for you? Was it just like, okay, it's a smaller canvas? I mean, still a lot of detail work, but like talk to us a little bit about how much, you know, or how that change happened. Was it easier, I guess?
It was a lot easier, only because, I mean, going from the trucks and the cars where you're doing one-off paint jobs here and there to doing, like I said, 50 to 60 a month. And, you know, they would give me an order for 10 black bikes with traditional flames with, you know, blue pinstriping. So we would basically, it was an assembly line.
Yep.
I had three. I still have 3 employees, the same 3 employees that I've had for 18 years. And, you know, it was basically an assembly line, you know, as long as my body guy could do, you know, the body work on 3 bikes a day, and we could base 3 bikes a day and primer 3 bikes a day, and on and on and on. I mean, we were keeping up with the load. Yeah.
Very cool. And I've always kind of wondered, like, when you get into doing bikes and stuff like that, if you've been a car guy, maybe, so to speak, for a long time, does it come with like new skill set you have to learn from, like, okay, for instance, you know, putting together a bike? Are you just like getting it, you have to take it apart, they prep it, paint it, and then just kind of put it back together?
Actually, we do not have any bikes here at all. The customer has everything taken apart and they bring them here. If it's a full bagger and we're doing a full graphic job on it, at one point, I will have to go to whoever's building the bike, or they will bring the rolling bike here. We assemble the bike after it's been base coated so that the graphics can be laid out or done whatever with, and then we continue on painting them.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
Completely different than a car or truck. It is completely different. Believe me. I mean, it's a smaller canvas, but it's a tighter canvas.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, there's just as much involved.
Yep, it makes sense. It just for the listeners, it kind of helps to kind of like tie in and that transition, right? So, but it's pretty cool that you've been able to kind of do both, the best of both worlds. Now, it dawned on me recently. I guess I kind of knew it, but I didn't really ever think about it when I was doing the flip throughs on our YouTube channel. It was like I went through the one Mini Truckin magazine, March '93. And I see, the license plate and, I'm kind of thinking about it. And then I go through the other one and I was like, okay, boom. And it hit me. So like March 93 and August 94, you were basically the first guy to have your truck on the cover of Mini Truckin twice, right? Which is, pretty prestigious. I mean, by any means, right? Through all these different years. Talk to us a little bit about this amazing mini truck that you had, like maybe how'd you get it and things like that.
The Blazer I purchased brand new. Like I said, I purchased it strictly for family reasons. I mean, of course, back in 1990, my girlfriend at the time became pregnant, so we had a son. We needed a bigger car, and then this S10 pickup trick-up contest came along, and I called the promoter and said, hey, I mean, this S10 pickup trick-up contest, is it strictly pickups or is a Blazer allowed?
Uh-huh.
And they said, oh no, it was for any 91 S10. They were promoting the sale of S10s is what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay. So I went and bought an S10 Blazer and basically pulled it in the garage and tore it apart. Suspension out from under it and painted and chromed and did a bunch of stuff, and then had the stereo done in it, painted it, and did some graphics on it. Actually, the weird story about that is it was actually shot 3 times by Mini Truckin, but it was only on the cover twice. And the first time, the way that it was, when I won the pickup trick-up contest, it was never actually put in the magazine like that.
I see. I think I remember you commenting about that. So, and I'd imagine you probably have some photos of it back from then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to check those out and share some of those. Now, so like obviously you're a painter, right? And you're really good at what you do. So it kind of makes it like, oh, we're going to repaint this. But, back in the 90s, I don't know how many guys were just blowing their stuff apart to repaint it. Like, what was the motivation to go, okay, so March 93 cover, what was that motivation to go, let's redo it, and boom, it gets shot again, it runs on August 94?
Well, I like the fade on it, don't get me wrong. I mean, from the first cover, I like the fade on it, and realistically, the paint job that I changed it to was the same exact fade, I just added the graphics to the bottom. It's realistically the same exact thing, only I lowered it a little more. I put the Boyd wheels on it, put a rag top in it, redid the interior a little bit. I mean, redid the stereo system. But the actual fade on the top of the Blazer is actually the same from cover to cover.
Yeah, wow, interesting. Yeah, when I'm looking at both the covers, like the August 94, I always liked how there's that graphic that kind of comes down the fender and it just dips down the door. And, obviously trends come and go, but I mean, you've done so many paint jobs. I mean, the two-tone aspect of it, and it even looked like you had put a sunroof in it, if I remember correctly. But man, I mean, dude, it just looks so clean.
Yeah.
Oh, rag top. Yeah, rag top.
Yeah, it had a rag top. Yep.
Yep.
It had a rag top. I polished the wing on the rear. I mean, there were so many little things that I did, but realistically, just adding the graphics to the bottom, lowering it, throwing some wheels on it, changed the whole. I actually like the second version. The first version, actually, and I think I mentioned this to you before. Mm-hmm. The first version was actually scheduled to be shot for the cover.
Yes.
And I believe it was like a week before that, or just a few days before that, somebody broke in my shop and stole the wheels and tires.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying that. And you did share one of the photos where I had, shamelessly borrowed one to kind of show the 3 versions. But yeah, I mean, that had to have been heartbreaking. And you're thinking to myself, man, I've got this thing coming together. Now that must have been after the show, though, right?
Yeah, it was after Spring Splash, I believe, that it got broken into.
Yeah, crazy,
and,
man.
Of course, that was heartbreaking too. I mean, they broke in and took every tool I owned.
Wow.
So,
yeah, I never.
But
realize
they
that.
they stole tires and wheels, and they stole stereos out of cars and trucks. Luckily, it's funny that you mentioned that Mike Shartz's truck was actually in my shop the day before I got broken into.
Really, the Ranger.
The Ranger, the Alpine dually that I did for Alpine was in my shop the day before, and both of those were picked up that afternoon, and then I got broken into that night.
Wow.
So
yeah, it's crazy
luckily
how things go. But I mean, you were able to kind of pivot and rebound, and those are like some of the things that reinforce our character. We go through these like things where there's nothing worse than getting something stolen from you, something that you work hard for, and a thief comes along, and you were able to be resilient is the best word I can think of. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing the details about the truck, because I want people to know, like, over the years there were only a few trucks that were on multiple covers. There's a handful of them, and it's really a prestigious thing to have one. But I think for you to refresh the Mini and do what you did, and then have the 2 covers, we'll kind of reshare some of the photos and kind of reinforce it. I mean, it had to have been a cool thing for you, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I just wish I would have been around for the second shoot when they shot it with I believe Tina knew, because Mike Shartzis, who shot it, knew that I wanted her, with my truck if they ever shot it, and I wasn't told that she was going to be the model, and I dropped the truck off and left. And it is what it is, surprise, surprise.
That's one you don't let go, though. You just go, damn it. But yeah, it was pretty cool because she's standing over by the toolbox, and she's got the jean shorts on. I mean, it's kind of, I think Stillwell one time wrote about, they called these kind of like an X marks the spot cover, where they've got a model, they've got some different product placement, and it just, I mean, to me, it's one of my favorite covers just because it captures the time period, and just even with the front nose of the truck there, I mean, to me, it's my favorite out of the 2, but obviously, the model might play a little part in that too, you know what I mean?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, good stuff, Doug.
Yeah.
Now, I did want to talk a little bit about some of the amazing paint jobs. I mean, tip our cap to you, because, I mean, you've done so much. But one of the trucks, just kind of going through my notes, I remember the Toyota pickup known as Too Many Mods. Our friend Lucky owns it now. I think Matt Stevenson was the original owner, builder of it. It graced the cover July 95. Any memories from that amazing mini truck?
Oh yeah, I mean, I actually he actually contacted me. Like I said, this was when I was living in the desert. He contacted me about painting his truck, and I painted that in my garage.
Wow.
I think we molded the ground effects on it. I actually have a picture of it on the wall here in my office of it in primer sitting on jack stands in my garage, and I painted that in my garage up in. Actually, I moved to Yucca Valley at that time, but. Yeah.
Wow, dude! And
a lot of memories from back then. I love that time period back then.
Yeah, and a lot of us were, waiting patiently for the magazine kind of moves from quarterly into bi-monthly, and then quickly into a monthly publication, and we're waiting, and a lot of us will look back to, I mean, especially me, like I look at like 94, 95, 96, 97, those 3-4 years. I mean, there's so many iconic trucks, and I mean, Too Many Mods still continues to get a lot of love. I mean, Lucky does great with kind of curating it, but I mean, it's got to be a good feeling for you. I mean, there's paint jobs that go back, obviously predates it, like your Blazer, but I mean, for you to see this truck getting the love that it does, getting put on shirts and being enjoyed, I mean, it's got to bring a smile to your face.
Oh yeah. I mean, to see something, for one thing, to see a paint job or a truck last that long and be taken care of for that long, is amazing. I mean, the truck was, stored right. I mean, whether it was under a cover outside or in a garage, I believe from my understanding, it was in a garage for a long, long, long time, and then moved outside under a cover for a long time, and then I believe I'm trying to remember who purchased it.
Yeah,
one of the guys out here in California purchased it.
Yeah, and had it for a while, right? I think, and then Lucky got it.
And had it for a little while. Yeah, and then Lucky got it. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff, man. Yeah, it's one of our favorites. I mean, I think back, there's a couple of trucks from that era that stick out to me as some of my favorite covers and just trucks in general, and that's always been one. Thumbs up on that. Now, obviously, one of the most storied vehicles, I think, in our scene, I mean, arguably, I could go to bouts over this one, or, however you say it, but Truckin 97, so September 97, a truck that some of you guys know as West Side, that became Crew Cut.
Right.
Now, I've heard, I don't want to give away too much, I want you to tell this, but I've heard, the story with you and Rob a little bit, bits and pieces. Talk to us how that epic West Side paint job came about, if you remember, Doug.
Well, the very first paint job that I did for Rob was his dually Suburban.
Yes.
And then after that, and that was on the cover of Truckin magazine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the month of it, but month or year, but that was on the cover. And then he was building this dually, and we actually widened the rear fenders on it. And then I've mentioned this to you before, but Rob used to hand us crayon renderings.
Mm-hmm.
of most, I'm going to say most, if not all of the trucks that we did for him. I mean, and there was a lot of them, believe me. There, I mean, you're talking about that Blazer, the Blazer, some of the dualies, and then the West Side. Those were all crayon renderings that Rob would draw on his desk and then hand to me, and we had to try to transfer that crayon rendering to a lifelike vehicle, if you want to say, and make it look right. And it came out. I mean, a lot of people don't know that truck was painted with the checkers and the fades on it originally, and then they cut the roof off of it. Some people argue about that, but
people. Yeah, and we had, rest in peace, we had Sean Mahaney on about 4 years ago almost, if I look back at the dates. Okay. And Sean talked to us like so much, gave us a lot of intel on the truck, and it's such a storied one. Now, you mentioned the Suburban was 96 November cover, which was called the Bomb, as you recall, and kind of different, right? Because it had the dually, but it was the Suburban. One of the things that I always thought was amazing, even before it clicked, even though I was reading the magazines, before it clicked that it was like, okay, Doug Starbuck painted it. I always thought when you look back at that truck, it's one of those paint jobs where, like, when you're far back from it, when it was West Side, you see this big, canvas of a paint job, right? And you got this checkered flag. How tough is it to paint something like that, or is it just like, oh, no big deal?
Yeah, I mean, it just fell into place. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not difficult. It just takes a lot of thought, ahead of time and what you're doing. I mean, that was back in the 90s. Nowadays, it might be a lot more detailed and everything else, but for its era, it did well.
Yeah, and I always thought that, like, I even loved, too, how the graphic came across on those famous 88 to 98 grills, which the grills obviously changed, but they had that center section, and the graphic would come through there, and it just was really well done. And, on the last episode, we gave a lot of props to Rob Baji that, I don't think that maybe he always gets the credit. I know he kind of got out of the trucks a little bit, but, I give him a lot of credit because I tell you, when you look at all the covers and the vehicles and the stuff that he helped to, like, drive in terms of, all of these epic, iconic builds, I mean, it was something else. And the West Side one really had to have been just maybe a fun one in your memory that you guys did together.
Oh, yeah. I mean, all of them. I mean, Rob had a good imagination. I mean, he was an innovator, and he let me, I mean, like I said, he let me, take charge, if you want to say, of some of these vehicles. Like I said, to work off of a crayon rendering was difficult at times, but we did it. I mean, there was that one, there was a dually on the cover of Truckin magazine. I believe I'm looking at it right here, June 2000, where we actually took the graphic. We actually took the graphic through the windows on the shell.
Yep. I remember that.
And that took some serious thought. I mean, he drew it like that, and I'm like, okay, now how am I going to approach this? And I actually, I had a guy come in with a mini sandblaster, and we masked it off and had him lightly sandblast the glass so that the paint would stick, and painted it.
Yeah.
Just where the graphic, the rest of the glass was see-through.
Yeah. And what an iconic truck. Too Low Crew, I think it was referred to as. And I did have a question, since you brought that truck up. How difficult was it? So, like, a friend of ours is Christina, right? And she did the rendering on that truck. When you saw a rendering like that, like, she was an amazing artist, like, you're an amazing painter. When you would take someone's vision like that, like, obviously I think it had some nods to, like, crew cut, right, with the checkered flag. How was it? Did it make it more difficult, Doug, to be able to go and execute that, or was it just like, okay, boom, that's our blueprint?
The same as all of them that we did for Rob. I mean, we, like I said, she drew that one. She drew some of them.
Yep.
Let's put it that way. I mean, I've known Christina since she started.
Yes.
I mean, and realistically, I mean, talking about that, I have her very first rendering.
Oh, there you go.
So, and it was of my CRX.
Awesome.
She was. I was introduced to her when I had Starbucks over off of Magnolia and Riverside, but no, I mean, it was basically just looking at it, how are we going to approach this, and then just do it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the thing about the graphics kind of in the glass, the top or towards the tail end of it, because I don't think that's something that people have always realized. We've got that cover. We'll make sure we share it. I tell you, that dually, the red one, it was kind of like this unsung, hero, because I mean, it has a Phantom grille, it has a chrome front bumper, the amazing graphics you laid super low with the topper. It was kind of like it was maybe in crew cut / West Side shadow, but it was just one and just an amazing arsenal that Master Image Customs, I think, just kept another one, and of course you were there for a lot of those.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the expedition. Mm-hmm. There was another dually that we did. The Blazer. I mean, I could go on and on.
Oh,
I mean, there was even some. There was even some compact cars.
Yes.
Yeah, that were just amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty cool,
and it was fun to work with all these guys. I mean, Sean Mahaney and John Tondro. I mean, all of them. I mean, we grew up in an era, if you want to say, where we all just did our job.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and it's weird to say that, but it was before the internet and before everything, and we had to rely on print to get our names out there.
Oh yeah, yeah,
so,
it's 100%.
Yep.
From a West Side perspective, I mean, any one vivid memory that you have of either the completion of it or maybe it getting shot? I mean, any kind of memory that you have that's maybe stuck in your brain to go, yep, I remember that about that truck?
There's not one solid thing. I mean, I mean, there was so much to that truck. Like I said, we widened the rear fenders, which took some time and some thought. I mean, kind of like his dually, the Suburban dually.
Mm-hmm.
We had to pretty much fabricate those fenders onto that Suburban because they didn't make them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's some very good memories, especially with Master Image.
Yeah, and
Rob. And I don't know whatever happened to him.
Yeah, and he's Rob. We got to give him a little nod. Hopefully, he's listening to this one. He has kind of surfaced on Instagram. He's reached out a little bit, and I'm always, I don't want to start like going, oh, I'm going to tag this person a million times or whatever, because he's kind of doing some other stuff, I think, with music and that type of thing. But he seemed, he seemed open to like, hey, man, it's Rob right here, and some people have commented and stuff. So I began kind of tagging him and whatnot, and he's agreed to come on because I want him to tell his story. Like, I tell people, when you look at the back cover of Street Trucks, they had ads for a long time, obviously with the crew cut, kind of giveaway tie-in, but they built so many vehicles, and for you to kind of be there for many of them, I always thought that was cool. For the listeners, I would remind people too that not only was West Side on the cover of Truckin' September '97, it was also featured in Chevy Truckin', which was obviously one of kind of those sister publications of Truckin', kind of a little bit different photos. We'll reshare some of those, but I mean, that was the cool thing when we had Sean on, and other people have talked about this. He wasn't the first guy maybe to be doing, and Sean and I mean Rob as well. They weren't maybe the first guy to like body drop a dually. There was a couple others out there, but like the amount of work that went in this truck with hydros, the rag top, as low as it was, I mean, it was a lot of work, and the paint job to me, Doug, was just kind of the icing on the cake.
Yeah, it stands the test of time, that's for sure. I mean,
yep.
I mean, All of his stuff did. I mean, for a while there, I mean, almost everything we did for him turned into gold.
Oh, yeah. Now, before we kind of move on and talk about the four-door Blazer for a minute, I wanted to ask you, so as a painter, right? You've been involved with so many different vehicles. When something like West Side, and you catch wind that they're going to rebuild it, right? And they're going to, Rob's going to go crazier, right? And it morphs into what we know as crew cut today. What's the feeling like? Are you excited to see what's going to come about with it, or are you like, damn, we put all that time into it? What's your opinion on that?
I don't think I knew anything about it. I think that's around the time that I sold the business, and I disappeared for 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, with a 2-year no compete, I hate to say this, but I didn't really feel like going to a car show and spreading the word. Hey, I'm no longer there anymore.
Right.
I wanted to give her a chance to survive, and and she did for a while. I didn't want to. Yeah, I didn't want to be the bringer of bad news, but yeah, no, I kind of just fell out of it. I really didn't know that they were doing that. I mean, I knew that they were doing it, but I knew that Steve Van Diemen was Rob's painter at that time. I mean, because like I said, I no longer had a shop.
Yep. Yeah, and we recently had Van Diemen on, and just a real humble dude, and he's kind of doing his own thing now with restoring old antique type stuff and things like that. But I always thought, like, from a story perspective, it was really cool to have Sean, again, rest in peace, on, because he kind of really set the record straight. Because I mean, even us, we always argued back and forth, like, that can't be the same truck, it's a different dash. No, the motor setup looks different, and lo and behold, it was. But it was just the way that Rob went about trying to mask it, and I think he did a good job to be able to come out and go, plow, here we are now.
Yep.
So yeah, thank you so much for sharing some of the details about it. I mean, we just love the truck and the storied history of obviously West Side that became Crew Cut.
Right.
Now, you mentioned the Blazer earlier. April 99, four-door Blazer, yellowish, runs on the cover of Mini Truckin. To me, that also kind of had that West Side feel, and you also painted that one as well. Man, any memories from that one?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we did. We molded the roll pan on it, and I believe it had W's for taillights. If I'm not mistaken, we did a little bubble on the hood. We fabricated that and did the bubble on the hood because I believe they body dropped it or did something, and the motor sat too high. So we had to figure it out, and some of the subtle things that we did to it. The roll pan we had to fabricate all the whole side, if you want to say, all the way around. We had to fabricate all of that. I believe we took an S10 bed, some sides off of an S10 bed, and cut them down and fabricated them around the corners, and then added the roll pan and did some other stuff. So there was a lot of work that went into that Blazer, that's for sure.
Yeah, and those with the cross members and stuff, I mean, they weren't easy to lay down unless there was a lot of work. And that was kind of pre the stock floor body drops, in terms of that build, as far as my memory serves. And it's just one that sticks out in our mind. That was a cool one. Now, one of my favorites, Doug, is the purple Mazda that MIC, of course, under Rob Maggi's, umbrella there at MIC. That one, I believe, went overseas, but I mean, December 2000. Okay, that purple paint on that thing just pops, and you also did that one, correct?
Yeah, one of my favorites also.
Yes,
that was actually a passion purple, if you want to say, or a passion pearl from House of Color. It's something that you can buy right over the counter. It just, for some reason, the color just really popped. I mean, and the same thing with that. I mean, we were sent. That truck was sent to us pretty. I'm not going to say very rough, but a lot of the mods, started. The third door on the one side was started. We had to finish all that. We had to finish the hood. We had to finish a lot of different things on that thing. But yeah, I mean, like you said, that was definitely one of my favorites too. And I know that I've seen pictures where the guy has actually completely redone it over in Japan. And it's just amazing what he's done with it. I mean, it's the same color, same truck, same everything. But he, over time, just showing it. I think he had the paint redone. He had some other stuff redone. So
yeah, the side tilt hood, like you said, the suicide door on the passenger side, but then making the third door, which was a feature that like Chevy had kind of rolled out on some of the OEMs, like on the driver's side, and the side swing tailgate, like. I mean, that truck today, I mean, when we see it in show coverage over in Japan area, up on the wheel stands and stuff, it's just like, damn, dude, it's it really pops. I mean, kind of a true definition of a real mini truck, full blown show mini truck, I should say.
Right.
So pretty cool stuff. Now, you mentioned earlier Shartsis, right? So his Ranger, I mean, you could go back 30 years ago. So May 91 cover of Truckin, Auto Sound and Security, August 92. Of course, it was in tons of different, different photos and articles and stuff. But you painted that one. Any memories from that amazing Ranger that's still around? It's going to get rebuilt, of course.
Yeah, I've heard that. Is it Shannon has that up?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, Shannon has that. What's really weird is when Mike brought me that truck with the paint job that was on it. I mean, you probably have pictures of it with the bright colors on it and the blue on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the paint job that was on it, and he wanted something similar, but with just a little subtle. So we changed it, and I like it. Don't get me wrong, I like it. I like the first paint job. I'm going to say a little bit better, but of course he put the sound system in the bed and did some other stuff. But no, just another iconic truck that I'm not going to say everybody remembers, but a lot of people remember that truck.
Yeah, because when it was first, like I said, with May 91, it had the darker blue with those kind of colors that kind of came around the bumper and then up down the side, of course. But when it was on Auto Sound and Security, it didn't have those bright colors on the bottom. It was more of like a grayish. I mean, in the photos, it almost looks like, I mean, I know it's not Flexstone, but it kind of had that like light gray color to it. And that was part of the big change from the first version, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually pearl white on top, and it faded down to like a really light teal. And then it had the real subtle, almost white graphics on it with some pinstriping. I mean, it was real similar to what was on there before, just a lot more subtle.
Oh, yeah, and I want to give some love to RA SoCal on Instagram, RASOCAL, Relaxed Atmosphere SoCal. What was cool is, obviously, we've kind of talked about the storied history of Relaxed Atmosphere starting in, I think it was the summer of 91, but they had shared some photos of Shartsis's Ranger. The cool thing was, I think it was our friends at Hammered Weekend Wear, Ron and Hank over there, they, I believe, were behind the RA 30th anniversary shirt. I think they helped kind of, push that and get that out there to all the RA members. And it was pretty awesome that Shartsis's truck was on that shirt, man. That second paint job that you were talking about.
Oh, was it? I don't think I've seen it, to be honest with you.
I'll have to share the photo with you. But, it kind of just shows the test of time. I mean, what I wanted people to know, Doug, is like, I mean, you've done a lot, and I know like you're like a lot of guys, you don't stop to go, hey, look at all the stuff I did. But I mean, someone like yourself, I mean, you've had your hands in so many cool builds, and to me, it reinforces the legacy that you have, because I mean, even 30 plus years later, we're still like, these shirts, these trucks are getting featured on shirts, and I mean, there's just an awesome legacy there for you, man.
I appreciate it. Like I said earlier, it wasn't something that we set out to do. We just, we were handed, whether it was a full-on rendering or a crayon rendering, we were handed that. And we did our best to do what we could.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I love doing face though. That was one thing that I was really, I'm not gonna say very well known for, and that's why Shartsis's truck had the fade on it. My Blazer had the fade on it. The Blazer had a fade on it. I mean, a lot of them had a fade on them. So.
Yeah, man. Doug, you had a better fade than a damn barbershop, man. I love it. Oh man, we got to put that on a shirt. The single cab pickup that was black that had these like purple flames, right? So I forgot to grab my issue earlier of Truckin. It was like 97-ish, right? I looked at my issue. Luckily, I have another one now. I looked at it so much when I was younger that the pages were like starting to rip, right? And this truck was so iconic. I mean, the purple flames. I mean, this is like perfect kind of truck that Brian McCormick loved, and it was on the cover of Truckin'. Regular cab, full Phantom grill with those purple flames. I mean, you got to remember that one.
Oh, I do. That was done for when Buck owned Empire Motorsports.
Yes,
that was done for him. The weird thing about that is that a lot of these magazines back then, look through all the magazines you've had, how many times do you see a black vehicle on a cover?
Not many.
Almost never. Actually, I painted an S10 Blazer out of my garage in Joshua Tree, painted it black with graphics on it. It was Dave and Clay Ellis.
Okay.
Whitney, I don't know if you have that issue or not. I know it's somewhere around here, but
I know exactly which one you're talking about. Yeah, that was like 97-ish, 98.
Yeah, the one with the trailer. Well, that was originally painted black with graphics. They picked it up, they took it down, they were showing it, and basically the magazine basically told them, we're not going to shoot that for the cover. We won't shoot it. They're like, why? Because it's black.
Yeah.
They're not going to waste a color page on a black vehicle.
Yep.
That's what they told them. So for that one to be on the cover, it was exciting. I love doing flames. That's one thing I really love doing. That truck, yeah, that had Cadillac taillights, if I remember, that we did, and the shaved tailgate and some other stuff. But I both of my trucks, the truck I drive now has flames on it.
Yeah,
I love doing flames.
Yeah, and it's etched in my mind because that was at the time that, I mean, I was reading Truckin in about 94. I have some of my original issues, but like around this time, like I look at it now and I'm like, the wheel, I forget which, it's not the Paradox, but I think it's a Colorado custom wheel, but it had, the billet antenna, phantom grille, sport mirrors, like the street scene mirrors, that stance that's so perfect. And I'm so excited that like this whole sport truck era, if you will, is just coming back in full force because, I do think the mini truckers, I always say this, I think the mini truckers were like a huge force in getting to where we are today because you had like the Brian Gendros bagging the trucks and then you had the guys body dropping them and then you move into like the IF Custom and KRZ era where there were stock 4 body dropping. But I think like this mashup that we're seeing now of the minis with the full sizes and then the sport trucks come in, man, it's just a good era. I think in my mind, I'm just glad it's back, man.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely coming back. I mean, we see it here on the West Coast. I mean, there's a lot of these older, if you want to say 88 to 90, 99, if you want to say standard cab, extra cabs. I mean, mine actually is a 4-door short bed.
Yep.
But it's a 3/4 ton, so but I tow with it. I use it. I beat it up. It has a paint job on it, but I use it.
Yeah, some people forget, like into 2000, like we often hear the term 88 to 98, but as you know, it takes a couple years for them 25s and 3500s to flip over. So I've even seen some 2000, that are obviously the OBS trucks, which is pretty cool. I mean, like when I think back, like there's so many, you've had, different vehicles that have, went to Autorama. I mean, just countless others. I mean, I'm sure you sit back in your office and you don't, sit back and want the accolades, but I mean, if you think back to how many covers, right, that you may have been involved with painting and things like that and building, it's got to be over 20 or 30, man.
I have over 70.
Wow. See, I was trying to, I'm like, I don't,
covers.
I don't want to say 50 and you're like, well, it was 40. Dude, that's a huge accomplishment. I mean, and it's just getting up, like you said earlier, going to work, doing what you love. When you look back all these years, do you just say like, do you think, hey man, I was blessed, or do you think like, man, I worked hard, or like what was the secret ingredient, if there's even one?
My wife will tell you, I'm a workaholic.
Yep.
I'm a workaholic. I mean, I'm here on Saturdays. I'm here at night. I mean, back in the days when we were doing vehicles for SEMA, I mean, there were times when we were working 40, 50 hours straight, go home and sleep for a little while, and then do it all over again, trying to get vehicles done for SEMA.
Yeah.
No, it was a labor of, it is a labor of love. I mean, you have to in this industry. You have to love what you're doing.
Yeah. You were doing like overhauling type stuff.
I still enjoy it.
Yeah. You were doing like overhauling type stuff before overhaul. Yeah. I thought you were on there.
Yeah, we did an overhaul. It was second season. 2004. It was actually the first year we moved into the building that I'm in now. Yeah, we did an overhauling.
Very cool.
I can't say I really liked the vehicle we did, but it is what it is.
Yep.
I mean, Foose was here for like 3 or 4 days straight and slept in his truck, and got to talk with him a lot. And I mean, he gave me some huge compliment. I walked out of the booth one night, and he was looking at all the pictures of the covers of vehicles on the wall, and I'm like, "You see anything you like?" And he goes, this sticks with me because it was Foose. He goes, man, he goes, I just admire so much that you've done. He goes, I've seen so many of these vehicles, but I'm in awe at how many you've done. I'm like, well, that's cool, so.
Yeah, man,
I don't know.
That's a testament to your hard work. And, I tell you what, all the stories I've heard about him, I mean, you're a super humble guy, too. Like, it didn't take much for him to stop and look and go, man, and really admire all the work. And that's something that I admire about him, that I've heard that he's given compliments to guys that have really put the work in over the years, like yourself. And I look at that and just go, man, that is awesome.
Well, second season of Overhauling, you have to remember, he was really involved. Like I said, he was here. He slept in his truck. He had, it was a hands-on thing for him most of the time. Of course, nowadays, I mean, he has crews of guys that do it. I don't know if he's still doing it or not. I know they fell out for a while and then they were redoing it. But back in the day when he first got Overhauling started, I mean, he was hands-on just like the rest of us.
Yep, definitely.
And he's super nice guy. Super nice guy.
Yep, that's what everyone says.
Yep.
Just a few more questions. I always love land yachts. I'm into the 60s Lincolns. I've got one and just I love these bigger cars, but we talked a lot about trucks. The 60 Buick that you guys painted. Dude, I've seen the photos on your Instagram. Can you talk to us a little bit about, I mean, dude, that car is just mind-blowing to me.
We did that for a shop here locally. That's another thing. I mean, once we did the motorcycles, then we got into doing a lot of restorations on older vehicles. I mean, I've got, some 60 Impala convertible in the shop right now and some Camaros and some other stuff. So we do a lot of that also. But that Buick we did for a local shop here. It was cut and hacked and moved around, and I believe it was in the House of Color calendar. I got an award for it from House of Color and a jacket and some other stuff. And actually now, from what I understand, the couple that we did it for, they donated it to the Peterson Museum.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to go there one day, but dude, that's like next level.
Yep. Yeah, they donated it to the Peterson Museum, and talking to them, I did probably 3 or 4 cars for them. But that was one of the last ones. Actually, I can't say that was the last one I did, but one of the last ones I did. But talking to them, they said that they realized that, I mean, how much money they had in it, they were never going to sell it for that much. So by donating it, it's weird to say this, but they actually made more money as a donation than selling it.
Yeah, isn't it crazy, like the write-offs and things that people can do? Now, that car was referred to as electrified, right? LEC-trified, like electrified, but it's electrified.
Yeah, because it was an electric glide. Yep.
Yep. Dude, that thing is, I mean, from the wheels to the paint to the low stance, I mean, and being a Lincoln fan, obviously they've got the 4-doors, rear suicides, of course, the convertible. But, like, this car is one that kind of rivals, in my mind, the Lincoln, because it was a 2-door, which everyone loves the 2-door, but it had such big, like, it was so spacious even for the rear passengers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course it's got the wings like the Impala. It's got, it's a beautiful car.
Yeah, 60
beautiful
Buick.
Car.
Yeah, I would encourage everyone, I know Doug's super busy, but you can go out on Instagram and look at Starside Design altogether, Starside Design. You can see some of these. We've also tagged him, so you can click on the little icon to see the different photos and covers that we've tagged you in. If I did want to mention one more, I just thought about the topless 88 to 98 Chevy. I think you may have mentioned it earlier, but that was also another one that you guys painted, the standard cab that was red with the kind of the orangish and whitish. That was another one that I always loved.
Yeah, that was actually, I can walk over here and look at it. I believe it was on Chevy Truckin cover.
Yes, it was July 98. And that was a damn good one.
Am I thinking of a different one?
Oh yeah, you're right. So you're right. It ran in Truckin, and then it was also, you're right, it was on Chevy Truckin cover.
Chevy Truckin, December 97. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Because they kind of,
is that the one?
Yep, that's
the
the
one.
one.
Checkers on the side.
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah, that was actually one that Rob had his hands in that one too. That Master Image.
Yeah, there's so many, and we could just like dabble with just so many different builds and things like that out there. I kind of wanted to ask you, right, because I mean, I've been picking your brain and all these different ones that like I kind of handpicked, or that I knew the listeners would appreciate you kind of, or them kind of learning that, hey, you were the guy that painted these if they didn't already know. Are there any that maybe that are on your walls or that stick out, like maybe a couple that you wanted to mention that we didn't, that that you're like, hey man, like, 'cause I think there was one that you also had that was part of the grade 8 that was a winner.
Yeah, just a year and a half ago for the Detroit Autorama, we did an Olds 56 Olds that and I told you about this earlier talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost a $2 million build.
Wow.
$200,000 in body and paint.
Dude.
But I mean, everything on it was painted, from the motor to the tranny, drive shaft, and buffed, and body worked, and suspension was all buffed. Everything was. I mean, when you're dealing with something like that that's going to the Detroit Autorama, I mean, most of these cars are, million and up builds. I mean, even the Roadster show, some of these builds that Foose was doing, and Kindig. I mean, some of the builds that he's doing, they're big money builds.
Oh yeah.
But I enjoyed doing that one. That was 14 months and 3,500 hours.
Dude. See, we always give my co-host Mike, he's got this Mazda, we always give him a hard time about he's compromising, we go, hey man, you need to, if your drive shaft's not totally polished and, with flames and engraved and stuff, then you're just not doing it right. But, he always likes us ribbing him because, we always say he's compromising, he's copping out, But,
right. Yep.
When you think of these crazy builds, I mean, are there any others that you just go, man, we spent a lot of hours. I mean, there's so many, I'm sure, but I mean, are there any other ones you wanted to mention other than the ones we talked about that you're just like, oh yeah, don't forget about this one?
I mean, of course, one of the first ones I did was Chris Heath's Blazer, and I have to really, give a shout out to him, to be honest with you, because without doing that first one, you're not going to have a chance to do a second one and a third one and getting introduced to some of the people. But that was actually Truckin cover. Let me think here. I'm looking at it here. February '92.
Wow.
But that was painted in my garage, and believe it or not, being the first one that I painted in my garage, I painted it at night because I was working at the dealership during the day. I painted it with a flashlight.
Wow, are you kidding me?
No, I painted that with a flashlight. I had one single bulb light in my garage. And then to paint the sides, I was using a flashlight and a spray gun, and that's it. I mean, literally spraying that with a flashlight. And then, then I added more lights in my garage and did other things. But one of the other builds, and I'm not going to say it's not truck related, but it was on the hot Volkswagen. And I painted that in my garage also. And it was Norm Roberts, January of '92. And it has a Tornado transaxle and a V8 in the bed of it, made it into a truck.
Wow.
It was a Type 3 that they made into a truck, and I enjoyed that one. I enjoy doing race car. Honestly, I mean, I can't pick out one single one because I enjoy doing all of them. I mean, anything from, some of the trucks I did the truck I did for Alpine, the car I did, the Clarion Mustangs, the Mickey Thompson, Ford truck that we did. Like I said, I'm just kind of glancing around the wall here in my office, but the Bell Tech truck, that was real popular back then, the orange Bell Tech truck.
Oh, that's right. You did paint that?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, that was the Phantom, the Phantom dually. I'm not gonna say one of the first Phantom dualies, but yeah. So,
yeah, because
that one.
I think I remember seeing that because I recently went through that. I did a little video on YouTube about that truck and how much I loved it. And I got to give a huge shout out to my buddy Tim.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, thank you, bro. I remember Tim Davis, my brother from Relaxed Atmosphere. I've been looking for, Doug, forever, an original poster, and you just can't find them. And he goes, "Hey man, I got your back, man. I got a couple of them." I go, "You got to be kidding me!" So I got to thank Tim, and
cool.
and I'd love to get you to sign it. I'm working on maybe trying to get the photographer to sign it too that took that photo.
Okay.
But I mean, that would be awesome, dude.
Yeah, a guy that I was dealing with at Bell Tech was a guy named Jim Morris.
Yeah, I heard that's one of the names I was given.
I don't know if he's still around. I have no clue. I mean,
yeah, I was given a guy's name too. Christina hooked me up with a guy that was in Hawaii now. She goes, "Yeah, you got to get a hold of him," and she gave me his email address. So.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many iconic trucks and cars and stuff, and it's just a testament to your dedication to this, this craft, this trade that you have. You excel in it. Obviously, if you got your three guys that have been with you a long time, you got a tight-knit team. Why don't you give a shout out to those guys? Because I'm sure that they've just been awesome and instrumental all these years.
Well, my three guys here, and of course there's Jorge, who's my body guy, and then I've got another guy named Oscar and another guy named Victor. Awesome. And believe it or not, they're three brothers.
Oh, wow, man. So
they're three brothers. And, that, along with, like I said, everybody that we've met along the way, anybody from, like I said, Steve Stillo, Brian McCormick, Mike Shartzis, Courtney. I worked with Courtney a little bit, not a whole lot, because my into trucking and mini trucking was Brian McCormick. And then Mike Shartzis was the mini trucking guy. Me and Mike, were very, very tight knit. I mean, Mike was very good friends with, he was very good friends with Rob Maggi and all that. There's just so many. I mean, anywhere down to, I'm not gonna say down to, but John Tondro and Brian Gendro and all of us work together.
Yep. Yeah, it was
at one point or another out here in Southern California, we all work together.
Yeah, it's like there's the old website. It's like the 7 degrees or 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, and you can type in like an actor's name, and they're within 6. It's like I think there's we need a website for Doug Starbuck. It's like you're connected to, which is cool. And again, I mean it as a positive thing. I mean it's a testament to how much you've done. Just as we kind of wind down, I wanted to ask you, what, like, over the years, has there been, sometimes an artist might look up to another artist, or a writer might go, this guy was a influence on me, right? So, Doug Starbuck, like, was there ever an influence on you that, like, helped drive you through all these years to do what you do?
The one guy that I looked up to, and growing up, and I'm not going to say that he doesn't know this, but was Pete Santini.
Ah, yes.
I was introduced to him early on when I was working at a van converter by one of my employees who worked for Pete. And, he just, hey, how's it going? And run off, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, But, and I got to tell you a story. I was working at a body shop up in the desert, and I got a phone call from Pete. And it was after I started doing work from, out of my garage for some of these customers. And it was Pete Santini. And I'm like, well, the guy came out and he goes, hey, there's a guy named Santini on the line for you. I'm like, what? So I go and talk to him. He was just, he basically said, hey, I want to introduce myself and I want to tell you, but he warned me about a customer that I was giving a quote to. And I, I praise that. Because I was just some kid up in the desert, to be honest with you, just getting started. And here's this guy that I looked up to, and I still look up to him. He's an awesome guy, and he does some phenomenal work. That, and then, like I said, of course, Christine has come a long way. Mike Shartzis, Brian McCormick, all the people that deserve recognition in this industry. Let's put it that way. So.
Yeah, I would say give, and we've heard this in the kind of the hip hop and the music industry, give these folks their flowers while they're here. We don't want to have to lose someone to go, man, they were awesome, and I'll say this, Alex, he was on as one of our first guests this year. I think he was the first guest of the year, and he gave so much credit to Pete Santini, and he kind of mentioned how Pete had changed his life, and really just at an early age, right? And I think, I love hearing those stories because, like, to your point, like you just reinforced, like Pete is a guy, like he's been on our list and I want to get him on, and I appreciate you sitting down with us. And, a lot of you guys were instrumental in a great era that helped mini trucking not just be a fad. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys helped to cement where we are today, that it just wasn't, oh, these stupid trucks, and we appreciate that, man.
Right. Well, I appreciate everybody out there. To be honest with you, to recognize what we've done and hold us high. That's not something that I set. It's not something that I set out to do.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Like we set out to do our job, and now, like you said, 20, 25, 28 years, 30 years later, we're being told we're iconic, and hey.
Hey, man.
Okay. I don't know. I'm humble about that because I don't see myself that way. I see myself as I was doing my job, and I knew, growing up in the van conversion industry, the stripes, the graphics, the flames, all that stuff came easy to me because it was a production. I could tell you, I worked at a van conversion. When I moved out to St. Louis, I worked for a van conversion company that we were doing 180 vans a month.
Wow. Holy crap. Fans on the rise, man. That's nuts.
Yeah, 180. When I worked for Safari Products out here, who was owned by Pete Ellis Dodge, we were doing 160 to 170 vans a month. You know, when you're talking 3-4 guys in the paint shop doing that many, and you just pumped them out. We were production painters, and that's why the Harleys became so easy to do, because it was a production method that I was so used to doing.
Yeah, and you talk about vans. I want to give a shout out to my buddy in Orlando, Josh Wheeler, Boogaloo Van on Instagram. I mean, he's got one of the coolest vans ever, and I mean, he literally lives like this van. I mean, they're vanning every weekend. They're called the Orlando Vanners, and they're just out there, and it's just this cool thing to see it just come full circle. Whether it's mini trucks, the BMX bikes, the old Schwinn's, and the vans. I mean, everything kind of comes full circle, but we're just living in a great time right now to see so many different cool things clash, you know?
But and they're all coming back, and they're all meshing together. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Last thing I can think of before I ask if you had anything you wanted to share was, you know, again, I know you're not a guy that wants the recognition, but just wanted to say kudos, 2015 Mini Truck Hall of Fame. You know, again, it's a testament to all the stuff that you've done and all the builds that you've had your hands in. You know, you've given credit to obviously some of your employees and some of the key guys, like Christina as a woman, but Rob Maggi and Shartsis and all these other guys. But that had to have been a good feeling to kind of go, man, you know what? It's, you know, we did some cool shit over the years.
Oh yeah, no, that was a very, very cool recognition. I mean, I'm not gonna say I wasn't expecting it, but I wasn't, to be honest with you.
Yep.
You know, to get a call, that was the second year, I believe. Craig Frazier got it the first year, and then I got it the second year, and then after of course, now I'm involved with the Hall of Fame, and I'm on one of, you know, some of their committee, but because Bob Hayes and some of the other guys, Alex, I mean, a lot of these guys are involved in all this now. Mike Shartsis, I believe, is on there, and I don't know. There's so many people, so many guys. I mean, Craig Frazier, all these people are into the Hall of Fame committee, and it's just a great group of guys. But the recognition that they gave was amazing. I again, like right now, I'm kind of, you know, tongue tied. Honestly, because even then, when they gave me the award, I had to have something written down to say, because I'm not the type of guy to stand up there and go, "Hey, thanks for this and thanks for that." But
I did this and I did that. Exactly, you're not that kind of guy. I know.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like I said, Bob Hayes and all the guys that were involved with it back then, and they're still involved with it. And like I told you, I mean, I'm involved with it now. Bob Hayes, after I was inducted, asked me if I'd be involved in it. And it's a once a year thing that we all get together and vote in, you know, different people, and it's good to have. We have people from all over the country in the Hall of Fame committee. It's great to talk to them all and go through the lists and induct people, and it's just been fun.
Yeah, and give people their kudos. Well, yeah, man. I mean, it's been just a great trip down memory lane. Again, we could make this a 5-hour podcast because there's so much that you've done. But you know, we tip our cap to you because you've done so much. Did you want to give a shout out to your wife or kids, or you know, anything else that you maybe wanted to share that we didn't get a chance to touch on?
Like I said earlier, my wife knows I'm a workaholic, and I really have to give her the kudos, because, I mean, she's taking care of the family, the kids, and working, and everything else. My wife's been a trooper through all of this, and she still is, to be honest with you. I mean, she's, you know, she's one hell of a gal. If any of these people out there, I mean, that are listening to this podcast know her, they know her.
Yep.
My kids, I mean, my oldest daughter, Annette, and Darren and Kayla, and we have an adopted daughter, Shelly.
Awesome.
All of them. I mean, everybody that's been involved in my journey, if you want to say, has just been great and understanding, and they know me. I mean, they know that I'm going to put 100% into what I'm doing, and if it means that I'm staying overnight to finish something that I promised, and that's the biggest thing, you know, staying overnight to finish something that you promised to somebody the next day, I do it, because
amazing.
That's what I'm trying to do, is trying to build. I love building friendships through this industry, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and the one thing that I could kind of hear that you said earlier is, like, you kind of have that old school mentality where you're like, hey, I don't need the pat on the back, but I'm going to get up, I'm going to work. You know, I'm not going to call in sick. I'm going to get there and I'm going to get the job done. And you know, like you kind of said earlier, that whole mentality, which not a big fan of the Patriots, but obviously their coach, had that whole thing, just do your job, right? Was kind of his thing.
Yep.
Which
Yep.
I think is a basic thing, but it really rings true. But man, to your wife, your kids, and your team there, and you, Doug, like, it's just been an honor to sit down with you, man. Again, we got a lot of respect for what you and your businesses have done over the years. Huge contributor to the mini truck scene, but even the automotive scene in general. So all I can say on behalf of Mike and I and our team here at OLP, man, we thank you, bro.
Well, I appreciate you guys too, Jason and Mike. I don't know.
Yeah.
Many
Oh,
others
he's a nobody. I mean, I always tell everybody, just no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But
no, I mean, what you're doing for the industry and what everybody does for the industry has been great. I mean, even who's it? Thomas Cardinal, who's doing the
magazines
the
and stuff.
Yep. The magazines and everything. I mean, even to him. I mean, me and him converse every once in a while.
Yep.
And it's a great community. Believe me, it's a great community.
It is. Well, man, we wish you all the luck. We can't wait to see what you have in store. We'll be sharing some of the old features. We got plenty to go on. Shout out to Christina, Hot Rod Christina on Instagram. And Doug, just keep doing what you do, brother. And we'll keep the pedal stomped, and let's get through this crazy year. And everybody stay safe out there.
Right. Yeah, that's all we can do. That's all we can do anymore. Is stay safe.
Yes, sir, Mr. Doug Starbuck. Again, look him up on Instagram. It's super simple. If you just type in Starbuck, just how it sounds, you'll see it come up, Starside Design with no S. Go give him a follow, show him some love, and we'll be tagging you on some posts, Doug.
Okay, I appreciate it.
All right, y'all. You have a safe weekend. Be out you.